We just enjoy being with our family and being in the outdoors. We love going to a place called Bear Lake in Utah. We go every summer, just hanging out with our family. I don't know. What do you think?
We have 6 kids, so we're pretty busy. Like you said, we enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah. 3 boys, 3 girls in that order. So we're very blessed. Got our little Brady bunch.
Nice. Lots of kids. Yeah. It's the Mormon way, right?
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy American history, learning about American history, church history, and just tying them together. And to be honest, we enjoy helping others, just try to better their lives any way we can.
Awesome. You guys have been married how long now?
November will be 14 years.
14 years. Awesome. And you said, so 6 kids, right?
Yes.
6 kids. The oldest is now how old?
He's 11. He'll be 12 next Friday.
Okay. Awesome. So tell us maybe briefly, we could start with you, Lindsay, maybe kind of why you were interested in doing this interview tonight.
I wanted to do this because I want to be able to hopefully help other people who've gone through the same struggle or are going through the same struggle, to just hopefully let them know that they're not alone and that there is hope and there is healing, and to testify of the atonement of our Savior Jesus Christ, and just to hopefully help others.
That's nice. Very nice. So yeah, that sounds like a good reason to be here. That's awesome. So we talked about having you, the both of you here, to introduce yourselves and also to share your story. And we can maybe, Kyle, you could kick us off and kind of tell us a little bit about kind of your background. And this is related to pornography, right? And
yes.
Addictive behaviors, and kind of where that took you, and kind of where you are today, and advice you have for people. So maybe start us off with kind of where, maybe how it started, and kind of the challenge of that initially.
So yeah, it actually started my senior year of high school. I really didn't know what it was or anything. Really grew up in a very sheltered home, which I'm not ashamed of. You know, there's the pros to that. But when I came across it, and some, classmates at school were talking about, how it was fun to watch it and what it did, made you feel good when you watched it. So I stumbled up on some magazines once randomly that I didn't think I would, and just kind of got addicted from there, just curiosity. And then that happened for about a year, and then I went on an LDS mission, and I was good. I didn't have a problem with it on my mission or anything, fortunately. And then I got home and from my mission, and kind of step back here, give a little bit background of kind of what drew me back to it was a stress relief, and to kind of drown my sorrows and my struggles in the real world, to make me feel good. So it wasn't just pornography. Unfortunately, pornography and clubs and some other things that go along with that I was struggling with. And it wasn't so much for the sexual addiction. Yes, that was part of it. There was the lustful, but it was more of, it made me feel good inside. It made me feel wanted. And I felt like with different events that were transpiring in our life, trying to get married and how hard that was, and just different things from my childhood, I had that mental battle of being accepted. And so by being able to go out to clubs, and even though it was all fake, I felt important, and there was that temporal acceptance that I needed to get through the next day. So it just became to where it controlled my life, and I didn't care how it was affecting my family or anything. All rationality went out the door. I never lost my testimony of Jesus Christ or the gospel, but this overtook my life, and I wasn't able to do work well or be a good family man or anything. So
it was consuming your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of the introduction. It started when you're in high school, senior year, and had a break during your mission. And then you met Lindsay and were married, and it was just still kind of part of your life all along, and just like off and on.
So actually, so I remember when I got off my mission, right before I had known Lindsay, but I hadn't like actually formally met her. I was on LDS singles, just, return missionary, starting the dating life, college life,
Yeah.
just the thing to do, right? And came across a woman from Guatemala, and we were just talking and stuff, and then, nothing wrong. And then she posted a picture of, her just in a bathing suit, nothing bad. And then it just it was late in the middle of the night, kind of tweaked my interest. And so I watched it that night. And that was the only time.
That was after you met Lindsay?
This is before.
Before.
And I felt so bad. I went and got in my car and I drove up to the top of the mountain, and I cried all night long for like 8 hours because I didn't want to go back down that road because I knew it wasn't good. Fast forward a little bit, year into our marriage, I got really depressed over certain things. And then the doctor put me on some depression medication, and it messed with my emotions just to where I was emotionally stunned. And I'm a very kind of sensitive, crybaby kind of guy. And so I was depressed, and so I started using pornography to feel good about myself again. So a year into our marriage, she didn't know about it probably for a couple months, and then she knew about it, and then it just got worse and worse for the next 7 years.
7 years. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So we won't get to, I guess, where you are today right away, but we'll talk about that. So Lindsay, you want to maybe talk us through kind of how are you feeling now? I mean, are you doing okay and feeling like you love Kyle even though all this happened?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Definitely it hasn't been easy at all by any means. There's been a lot of pain and heartache. It's been a struggle. Healing has been a struggle. In fact, when he mentions 7 years, that's, I guess, according to my definition, because for me, it was very, very difficult and just like a living hell for 7 years. But for him, he would probably say it was less. We've had this conversation before. But I think part of that is because for me, while he was in the worst part of his addiction, I went into survival mode, and I built walls around my heart to protect myself from feeling any of the pain, and the emotion of the reality of what he was doing and what it was, what we were going through, what I was going through. And so I put these walls up so I didn't have to feel it. And so it wasn't until Kyle started to change and actively, got better and wanted to change, that all those walls came crashing down, and I was just blindsided with all of these emotions and pain that I had not addressed for years. And so I struggled for many years beyond even when he started his recovery. And it was a really difficult time for both of us still in our marriage, because he could answer this, but it seemed like he understood why I was having a hard time, but at the same time it was hard to understand. And I even had a hard time understanding it myself, because it didn't always have to do with if he did something. Sometimes nothing would happen, and I would just feel so angry or feel so hurt, and I would just be consumed with the pain of all of it. And I didn't even understand it. And so it was really hard. We went to a counselor, and the counselor really helped me. I journaled a lot, and the journaling really helped me to be able to process and understand my thoughts, because I literally was just overwhelmed with all of my emotions, and I didn't understand my emotions. And so I had to do a lot of work to process them and understand them, and a lot of prayer to Heavenly Father to help me with all of it, to get through and to get where I am today, where we are today. So
you feel healed?
Yes.
Through all this process?
Yes.
That's a miracle.
Yes, it
That's
is.
awesome.
It is, absolutely.
Can I add to that?
Sure. Yeah.
So along with the healing process, even though she is healed, it's not just like an overnight thing. A little event that happened probably last March is, just life gets busy, right? So you don't always have the best communication with your spouse, which is okay. Now that it's because you don't want to, but sometimes you lose that connection and that feeling of support from each other. And she came to me one night, and I was doing something to try to make her happy. And, it's been a while. I'm always so busy. I was trying to put aside my needs and just focus on her for a week. And will you share what you shared with me about how even though you're healed and you're happy, there's certain parts of your heart that you still have walls, and little by little they've been breaking and not holding up those walls. So it's not like, bam, you're healed. It takes time and effort and, a conscious effort, and eventually will happen, but it's line upon line.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a process, Yeah, even in the years that have gotten better, what were seven that were really bad, and we're now in the 7 more on the better side. But even in those last 7 that have been better, it's still been a struggle, and there still have been things as we've gone on that I have worked through, and I feel like the Spirit has brought to my attention that this is why you're feeling this way, and you need to forgive and let go of this. And so I really just have felt the Lord leading and directing this. And what he's referring to is, back in March, just something happened where I realized that there was still a part of my heart, my innermost self, that was still protecting and keeping from him. Sorry. And I realized the reason was because very early on in his addiction, he became very, very harsh and very mean to me. He had no interest in the things that I was interested in, or even taking the time to spend time with me doing things I wanted to do. And what I experienced was, and I didn't realize this until just recently, I just felt complete and total rejection from him very early on, that he didn't love me, because the way I am, I feel like in order to love me, I want you to know me and to understand me, and I want to be able to show you the things that I love and that make me happy and that make me me. And I really felt like I had to put all of that away. For many years, there were so many things that I used to do that I stopped doing. I really felt like I died inside during those years. Like I didn't know who I was anymore, even though I knew who I was. I didn't understand, how am I not that person anymore? But because of what we were going through and because of his struggles and me knowing about his struggles and why he was struggling and the messages I was getting from him, I didn't feel like I could be myself, like it was safe. And so I realized that there was still a part of my heart that I was keeping from him, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like a process, like a peeling process where initially you're able to at least look at him, you know, and love him openly. But there's like a deeper part of you, that was kind of protected. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because in some ways, even all these years later, I still have struggled to feel like it was okay for me to be myself. And, you know, do you want to do these things with me? Because for so many years, you know, it was no, I don't want to.
You kind of forgot probably,
and in a
way, like who you were, kind
yeah,
of, because it's like a long time without that part of you. You may start to lose touch.
Right.
With that, I don't know. But.
Right, and just I think probably also I just maybe got used to, like, well, this is just how it is, and you know that. And just letting go of that expectation of, oh, he's not going to want to do these things with me, or it's just not going to be this way. And that's okay. I'll just deal with it, you know. But, you know, I realized that it still is something that was so important to me to be able to do that. And realizing it has been very healing for me, and I think for both of us.
Yeah, definitely.
And to be able, the fact that I could even go and tell him that without any sort of fear, you know, is amazing in and of itself compared to where obviously we were many years ago.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
And to add to that, you know, as she got the brunt of it, and, you know, our older children kind of saw it, we're always fighting, but, you know, it's not like I was perfect or was happy after, because you, being the perpetrator, have to live with that shame of what you did to another person. And then for them to want to keep you in their life and wake up every day next to them knowing you took that away from them for so many years because you were so selfish. And the thought of why they're still with you is just even more miraculous at what true love is, and you can overcome, and the atonement of Jesus Christ is real. And so it was hard for me too, not to take away any of her healing by any means. Definitely, you know, she's the victim here, but, you know, it's not you're over your addiction and it's perfect. No, there's a healing process on both sides, and even that can cause a problem, but you just got to work through it, and you can. It's possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Forgive each other and forgive yourself.
Yes.
That's a deep forgiveness that's going on here, it looks like.
It is. And
wow.
it's, you know, you don't think you can until you truly experience. A lot of people are like, oh, if my spouse did this, they're gone in a heartbeat. And no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well,
and we're not perfect. We still have our struggles.
I mean, some people, we should at least validate the experience of others, that some, you know, men and women, it happens to both, but some of them decide that they just can't deal with it and they have to split. And so,
yes.
So we should say that your experience is one way to do it.
Correct.
And it works, it's working,
mm-hmm.
which is awesome. And you guys got through it. But of course, we want to make sure that we are clear that if there are couples out there that feel like they just can't do it, and it's better for them to split and maybe heal that way, you know, whatever it is they need to do. But in this case, you guys followed the counsel that you received from good therapists and from the Lord. You guys were prayerful about it, and you felt like, I remember you saying this before, that you felt like that you should wait But tell us the interesting part. I think I'd like to hear, unless you had something else you wanted to add there.
I can't remember what it was the first thing, but since you brought this up, just in line with other people, yes, I just want to share with you, there was a point where we were going to, I kicked him out. And
I was sleep on a couch for a week somewhere else.
You slept on the couch in the house, and then you slept outside the house.
I kicked him out of the house.
Completely out of the house.
Yeah. I slept on a couch in another house.
In another house. Yeah.
So, and it takes two to make a marriage work. And, if one person can't do it all themselves, I feel like in the beginning, I felt like I was somehow just supposed to save Kyle, or something that I could change him. And that's absolutely not true at all.
It does not work that way.
It doesn't. And all it does is it just leads to extra heartache and stress on yourself. There was a time when I was in the darkest part. I was so hopeless that he would ever change, that it was even hard for me to pray. I knew God was there. I always knew. I never doubted it. I knew God could heal anything. But for some reason, I would just think, sometimes, why should I pray? It's not going to change me. I can't control him. Nothing can control him. How is God going to change him? And so my prayers were always just pleadings, constant pleadings. Just please help me. Please help me, over and over again. And it's usually all I could ever say. I guess where I was going with that was, it does take two to make it work. And if you're in a situation where you are doing everything that you can, but your partner isn't, then, and the Lord is telling you that you need to make a break, then you need to follow that, I think.
Yeah.
Because everyone's situation is going to be different.
Yeah. Right. It's yes, exactly. So the Spirit, you should be following the Spirit, following what you feel like is right for you and your marriage. And there could be cases where you feel like God is saying, go ahead, leave this marriage behind if it's bad enough. People watching this, we're all going to be grateful for you guys as well. I feel that pain in a small way that you guys are going through and you guys have gone through, and that I'm just grateful. I'm sure everyone that watches this can be grateful that you guys are able to work through it, and hopefully provide hope for people that, a spouse that just finds out and is like, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And to say that it is possible, even in the darkest moments that you guys went through, you can still get through it. Looks like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And
I guess that brings us to probably what you were wanting us to share.
Well, the story of being kicked out is incredible, and then Kyle kind of changing his, realizing at that point, right? Was that kind of one of the turning points, or was it after that, or?
It was one of the beginning turning points. She was pregnant with our second child. His name's Brian. She kicked me out, and I didn't think she would take me back, but I went to her parents' house where she was and asked her to come out to the car, and I pleaded with her. She said yes, and I didn't know why she said yes. I was like, but she had a spiritual experience where, she was praying and the Lord told her it was her choice, that she could stay with me and help me become the man she married, or she could leave. Either option would be okay with the Lord because of where we were. fortunately, she chose to help me and, you know, live through it. So there's many turning points, but it's not like it was an overnight thing. You know, people say like when they're, you know, they quit smoking or quit drinking, they quit cold turkey. I think that saying, there's a broad perspective on that, because you ultimately that night make that choice, or that day, that you're going to change and quit. And something like smoking or drinking, maybe you can just quit and never touch it again, you know? And maybe that's even with pornography or some people. So I always wanted to quit. I didn't wake up one day and just say, you know what, I'm going to destroy my wife's life. I'm going to destroy my relationships with others, with God, you know, and Christ. I'm going to just destroy my own life. You know, that's what I want in life. I don't just wake up one day and say, you know, this sounds fun, let's do it. It doesn't work that way. But it's a step-by-step process. Even so, I was disfellowshipped from the church. I think I wasn't excommunicated because of where my heart was. I was trying. I didn't lose my testimony. I didn't want it, but the struggle was real. You know, it's more than a spiritual struggle. A lot of people think, oh, just, you know, say your prayers, read your scriptures, you'll be okay. But that's not true. There's an actual mental handicap, that there's a struggle there. All those things help, and they eventually help you heal and get over it. But I remember a couple months before she kicked me out, we went and saw a counselor. And the whole time I was there, I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to be here. I don't want to change. It made me more bitter, so I went and did more dumb things, because subconsciously I was trying to destroy my marriage because I wasn't happy in life. Nothing my wife did, but it was my only way. So I'd do things and tell her about it to try to destroy my marriage subconsciously, because I figured that would validate me somehow. So yeah, it's not an easy process, but it is doable. So even after I regained my membership in the church, got my temple recommend back, I still struggled. You know, there would be nights that I would leave the house if I was stressed from work. Lindsay knew where I was going. She couldn't stop me, or we'd fight about it, and she would beg me to stay. It wasn't a constant thing. I wasn't treating her, I wouldn't say I was treating her rudely or like she wasn't worth anything like I was before, but the addiction was still there. So it didn't just change overnight, but eventually, little by little, I was able to overcome it. Even to this day, I have the thoughts come into my head, the desire comes into my head, you know, oh, why don't you go do this? Think how fun it was. Think what a great time it was. But that's not true. Because one thing with addiction is, you know, you put on rationality. Every time I went to do something, I knew I wouldn't have a family the next day, maybe. But in the moment that you're going and doing whatever you're doing, that all goes out the door, and you have that little temporal joy for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then your emotions get flooded with, what did I do? I'm an idiot. This is stupid. I'm going to lose my family. And it's just not worth the battle.
Like a cycle.
Yeah, it's a cycle. And it takes, and you will, it takes one in your heart to change. If you're not ready to change, and I think that's one of the struggles that a lot of couples deal with, whether it's the wife struggling with something or the husband struggling with something, you have to let them heal on their own to a certain degree. You can be there, you can pray, you can support them, but until your heart changes, there's not much you can do, except you're just going to hurt yourself more, as my wife did, because you can't change someone's heart. You can do things to help them and help them feel it, but ultimately it's your choice. And until you make that decision, it's not going to happen.
You said that you could feel shame. That's a big word right now, for a lot of different reasons. But shame, as you guys know, shame is not the right feeling. You should ever feel shame, which is like a self-loathing, feeling embarrassed, there are natural consequences of sin, right? And you should feel bad about them. But there's a difference between feeling godly sorrow or feeling guilty and feeling shameful. And feeling shame is like that you like self-loathing, like self-worthlessness,
Right.
And as believers in Christ and in the gospel, we believe that your soul is always worth something, right?
Yes.
You're always worth something.
Yes.
Even if you're in the darkest pit, you're still worth something. You're valuable. And so that's one of the things that when you said shame, I felt like, you know, that's the adversary, right? He's trying to get you to feel like you're not worth something.
Yes. But along those lines, I agree with what you're saying, Leo. But I guess shame on me for what I did, right? In that sense, shame on
Yeah,
me.
right.
But yeah, I mean, there's something in your mind or something that has happened in your life that causes you to do it. Because if your brain's functioning on the right levels, you're not going to do that.
Right.
You know, there's not, you know, and people look at bad things all the time, or they do things, you know, personal pleasure or whatever it may be. You know, they get drunk on the weekends or go have one night, you know, and it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect other people's lives to a certain degree, right? I mean, it's a fun thing to do, not a big deal. But when you start involving others and affecting other lives and hurting them, that's where you should feel the shame of your actions. Not that you're not worth anything, not that you're worthless in God's eyes, because that's the farthest from the truth.
So feeling guilty or feeling godly sorrow.
Yes, for what you've done.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, but you can't, you know, it could even get worse if you sit there and loathe on those feelings.
Yeah.
Because then the only way to forget those is go back to your addiction, and that's not good, right? That's just what you got over.
Self-soothe by going back to the same old thing.
Yeah.
Lindsay, have you felt some of that too? Some of those, like, have you felt shameful or felt like self-loathing, like you're not like you're worthless through this?
Yeah, I did. I guess, like, I don't know how to explain it. I guess I don't really know that I felt worthless, like, completely. I think I felt the pain of feeling like my husband didn't think I was worth anything.
Do you feel like you were part of the problem ever? Like, did you ever have those thoughts, like you were somehow guilty of what he was doing?
No, I didn't really. And he would tell me that it wasn't my fault, you know, all the time.
Oh, okay.
Which was really, you know, it was good. You know, he'd always tell me it wasn't because I wasn't pretty enough or anything. Like, he never ever made me feel like that.
Yeah. I definitely married up for sure. Let's get that clear.
But I feel like the adversary probably made me feel like, oh, I need to try to be a certain way or do certain things because that will maybe help him stop, you know. I felt shame, but I felt shame more in the sense of, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe.
Oh, like people judging maybe, like, in your community, or. Well,
I think maybe the expectation I'd had for myself, for my life, for how I'd always imagined and dreamed my life would go, and like when we met and we were dating and, you know, getting engaged and everything, like, it just felt so right. Like, I knew it was right and he knew it was right. And we were met with all this opposition from my family, and like, it was just really crazy. But like, I had felt so sure that it was right to marry him, and so it was really difficult. You know, a year into our marriage, this monster comes crawling out of the closet and is like destroying my marriage, and I'm going, well, why is this happening to me? I've never done anything wrong in my life. You know, I've always been a good girl. Like, I don't understand why this is happening to me. Why would you tell me, Heavenly Father, that I should marry him if this was going to happen? You know, and it was really a big struggle for for a while. And I knew there was always a reason. And I didn't necessarily feel angry at God. I mean, maybe I did. I don't know.
Disappointed or something.
Yeah, I think I just was confused, and I felt pain through all of it. Like, it's amazing how when you go through your trials, and especially, of course, as you come out of them, you can look back and you can just see all of the miracles that God has worked in your lives throughout everything, through the pain, and you just realize how much he was there and how intimately involved he was there in your life, even though you were feeling so hopeless and so faithless and just were so broken. And
kind of like you got carried through it. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It is truly amazing. But I did feel shame, but it wasn't. I think it was just because, like I said, of my expectations that I'd had for my life, and then also feeling like I felt like I couldn't tell anyone about it. I feel like I couldn't tell anyone what was going on. Not my friends. I definitely didn't want to tell my family, because my family had been so, don't marry him. Like, before we got married, like, I felt like I had absolutely no one. I felt completely and utterly
You were afraid of being
alone.
shamed by people.
Yeah, I was afraid.
Of being told, I told you so.
Yes, by my family.
Yeah.
And I knew that they would if they knew. But
not to talk about your family, but there's history. Let's just say there's some childhood history that, basically just she had some of those same feelings growing up from certain events that happened in her life, in her family.
or I witnessed it.
Or you
I
witnessed.
witnessed similar situations.
And so, so bringing it back, she grew up with that. And so bringing it back into our marriage didn't make it even better.
People are judgmental. I mean, naturally, we naturally want to judge and say that's bad, that's good, you know.
Well,
so
and back when this was happening, I mean, this was like 2006, 2005 when it started, whatever. Yeah. And the church wasn't really as open as they are now about pornography and stuff, and like they were starting to. They definitely were starting
to. There wasn't like a website to go to get help.
Well, they did have the 12-step. We didn't learn about that till a little later.
Yeah.
But
there wasn't
initially
openness about it. Is that what you're saying?
I felt like, okay, so because Kyle's addiction wasn't just limited to internet pornography, because it involved clubs and other things. I literally felt like, yes, I know there's a lot of people in the church, spouses who struggle with pornography, but I'm sure there's no one who has a spouse that's doing the same kind of things that my spouse is doing. That was just the adversary, Satan telling me that, to make me just further isolate myself and hide my pain of what I was going through. Because even when we first found out about the 12-step program and our bishop was telling us about it, Kyle didn't want to go. And because he didn't want to go, even though he told me there is a separate group that is specifically for the women, the spouses of those who are addicted, you can go and get support there. Like, I didn't want to go because, I don't know, I think I just felt like I would be so different. And I still was in a place where I felt so hopeless.
Or like if you saw someone that you knew or something, or no?
I don't think it was really that. It was just, I just felt like
there's no
terrified to say, like, I don't want to go and say, oh, my husband goes and does these things besides pornography, because for whatever reason, I just had this in my brain that all the other women would just be talking about their husbands having problems with internet pornography. But I know that that's not true.
Like you couldn't relate or whatever to those.
So I was scared.
Along those lines of the 12-step program, it actually is quite the opposite. And to go along the lines of Lindsay with being shamed, so the ward that we lived in, we're going to talk LDS stuff because that's part of our life, and in Utah. It's your community. And so, I'm going to refer a lot to LDS and ward, not that that's the only way, but that's just our environment, right?
Right.
Everyone knew us in the ward. We had moved back into this ward. But speaking of miracles, so when we were in our house in a different part of town, one night some gunshots came through my front door, literally above my head. I was laying on the couch asleep, and the bullet went right through. Any lower, it would have went right through me. And so, it scared the life out of me. There was one turning point.
Yeah.
So we ended up back in the ward that we first lived in when we were first married. And the person they called the bishop was one of my good friends. He was older, but, we'd become friends with them. And so just small things like that, the Lord, he didn't send the bullets, but he definitely used it to kind of help me turn.
Mm-hmm.
The birth of our second son, he had some health struggles. That was another big turning point.
Yeah.
But along the lines of shame, a lot of people in my ward knew what was going on, and actually they didn't know the details, but we were well-known people of our community, you could say, and just because of the field I'm in for work and stuff like that, we're a tight-knit community. And so as we shared some of our struggles, not full detail, it actually got easier and better, because then they opened up about certain of their struggles, and we helped each other as a community. And the 12-step program is not that you do the healing there. So the 12-step program, you do different things, and it helps people. And for some people, it's different for everyone. But the thing that helped me with the 12-step program was the fact that instead of going and wanting to succumb to my addiction and getting that temporal joy, I chose to go the opposite way when I had that feeling, and go to the program, go meet with 20 other people, men and women, or 40 other people that had the same issues as me. And there's no shaming that goes on there. You actually feel a brotherhood and a sisterhood of confidence. And to be honest, this is kind of bad to say, but I'll say it because this is how I feel inside. I feel like some people continue their addiction to whether it's food or porn or whatever it is, because they don't have that emotional support that you get at the 12-step program. So they sabotage themselves so they can feel that respect and love they feel there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether that's right or not, but that's how I felt with my experience.
There's a really great therapist. I'll give him a shout out. Daniel Burgess is his name. You can look him up on Facebook. He runs a LDS intimacy group, and he talks a lot about how pornography is not necessarily an addictive substance. It's more like a symptom of an underlying issue, right? So a lack of emotional support could be, manifesting itself and lashing out, and in anger. It could be like in this case, with that, and also with pornography, it's kind of like a symptom of an underlying issue, right?
And that was my issue, was some.
So it is. I mean, it's
addictive.
We could say it's addictive, and we want to go back to it. But if you just are always harping on don't view it, is it really addressing the root of the problem, right?
No,
is there something underneath that that's
right.
influencing you to go to that as an outlet?
There is always an underlying issue, and unless you get to the root of it, you're not going to change.
Right.
And along the lines of Lindsay feeling like that it was her fault or not, there was times that I treated her like she was an object, not because I wanted to, but overall, I mean, if I could give advice to whichever spouse is the one on the bad end of it that's not doing the addictive behavior, is
on the receiving end,
the
victim.
Yeah, it can sometimes be them. I mean, every marriage is different, and so it really depends, but if it's not, you still got to love them, or and I guess not to go into detail of our intimacy, but we never had a problem with that, you could say. It had nothing to do with how well our intimate life was. There was nothing wrong with that. If anything, it was probably better than most people have it, and I understood that. And so the only reason I bring that up is just because, again, like you're saying, that's not, a lot of people make excuses or try to find reasoning, and the spouse is like, why? Just step back and let's figure out the true why, and you're going to feel those feelings. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are feeling better today than you were all those many years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
You're still not all the way, you're not completely healed, you would say, completely, or you still have more journey in front of you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
maybe more things you need to heal from and discover, like this surprise in March that you talked about. Maybe there's something else that comes up that you.
Yeah, and it's a day-to-day process, and even in life, like, because of everything that transpired and the choices I made, I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm 35, where I would be in my career, my community life, and my family life, and what I could give to my family to enjoy life better. And that eats at you too, but it's okay. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong. We're all going to finish the finish line. Doesn't matter if you're a Corvette or, a little go-kart. We're all going to finish. It's okay if we don't finish at the same time.
Yeah. Your own pace, right?
Yeah.
Well said. Lindsay, what else would you like to, any other advice or other things you want to share? Details from the past that stick out to you, that things you want to share?
Probably just, if you're in a situation like ours, just know that you're not alone. And because that was my biggest thing for me at the time, I really just felt so alone. I felt like I had no one. And I really wish that I hadn't felt that way, or that I had at least tried to make more of an effort to reach out so that I had someone to help me, because I think that would have, helped ease my suffering a lot. But, I also realized that sometimes, you don't have that, but there is hope, and you always have the Lord, even when you feel like it's not going to do anything, that He is always there. And one of the things I learned is that even though it was so hard initially to understand why it was happening, and why would God tell me to marry Kyle if He was just going to turn around and do this, like, why would He tell me it was right? But the Lord has shown me and taught me so much through my trial. I've learned so much, and He's shown me that I needed to go through this. I know it sounds weird, but I needed to go through everything that I went through and experience the pain that I experienced in order to further convert my heart to Him, and to teach me love and compassion for others, and to help me see others the way Christ sees them. I realized if the Lord had given me what I had wanted, that there would still be a lot of things that I would need to learn, and that I'm better for having gone through this, that I wouldn't have learned the things that I have learned in any other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well said. The key word for me when I hear stories like this is the word allow. The Lord allows bad stuff to happen.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And hopefully, through allowing all the bad stuff that happens, we can grow and can learn from that and become, like you said, empathetic and compassionate, and have strength and be able to help other people, especially other women. I'm sure you can help, that you find out if having this challenge, you can be a support to them. But yeah, the Lord, I think, in His wisdom, right, He allows bad stuff to happen.
Yes.
not that he forces it or even wants it to happen, right? He's probably not up to orchestrating this, what happened to you, and
Right.
he's not involved in bringing you to that point, but knowing that it was happening and knowing how to help you to get through it and how to strengthen you and make a weak thing into a strength, right? Weak things become strong. Yeah.
He uses it to his purposes and works miracles through it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Amazing.
When we
So,
turn
that's awesome.
when we turn to him and hold faith in him, because he always has us.
Yeah.
He's always there.
That's awesome.
I agree. Part of my downfall was bitterness of certain things in my childhood. Not necessarily from my family, but just, I've always had struggles throughout my whole life. I died when I was a baby. I had learning disabilities. I was very slow. I got made fun of a lot. But I felt like I was always that kid that just wanted to include everyone. And my bitterness was, what did I do to deserve this? Or why did I have to talk to those friends that one day? Or, why was that magazine placed where I didn't even look for it? It just was there in the comfort of my own home or, in a friend's home. And I was that kid that just, I showed the old ladies walks. I made sure that the kid next door, even if he wasn't part of our faith, felt included, and we would invite him and have him come to church activities or just go hang out as buddies, being of the LDS faith, did my 2-year mission and, what did I do to deserve this? I didn't do anything to deserve this. And then even more to inflict my struggle upon innocent people. What did they deserve? So you can say, I was bitter at God. I never lost my testimony. I don't care if you're LDS or not. If you're just Christian, we're all going to go through these same trials. We all are under the same children of God. So I don't care what faith you are. We're all going to have the same struggles. But the bottom line is it's for us to learn and grow. God does not force you to choose evil. Evil can come up on you in many ways, and you choose. But God's not going to stop you because he gave us agency to choose for ourselves. Mm-hmm. But he's never going to leave you alone. I would be driving to the clubs, and I would have siblings that had no idea about my addiction or what I was going through. Random texts. Hey, Jesus loves you. Or, hey, why don't you go read the scripture? Or a friend would randomly call to try to stop me from doing something. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes I was prideful and just kept going. But it's okay. It is okay. It doesn't always work out like ours. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a situation where it didn't work out, that's okay. You're still loved. I'll be your friend. Call me up if you want. I'll be your friend if you need a friend. It's okay. Because you can gain that love back with someone else. But God will never quit loving you.
That's well said.
If I could for a moment.
Yeah.
One of the quotes that meant so much to me that I came across in the hardest times was that just sometimes God calms the storm, but sometimes he lets the storm rage and calms his child. And that brought me a lot of peace. Mm-hmm. Because there were times when I would have to remind myself, when I knew Kyle was going to be going and doing something and I couldn't stop it. There were times I would remember that.
Just
that God is,
peace.
The storm is raging, but I felt peace. Peace like I can't even describe.
Wow. Amazing. You guys are an amazing couple. The way that you've been able to survive this and now be able to spread hope to other people. Even if just one person watches this and is helped by it, it's worth it.
Definitely.
So we're grateful for for you guys being part of this group and helping people and being vulnerable.
We're grateful for the opportunity you're giving us to share our story, and I think we're going to even heal more from sharing it. We've never sat down, let alone shared it with each other,
Right.
with other people. So I feel at peace and I feel happy. Thank you, Leah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys. It's a pleasure. Any other final thoughts you guys want to share together, or?
I would say one thing is, even though you're not in the storm, the one of the tornado, in the eye of the tornado, you could say, it's still going to be a lifelong battle. As Paul teaches in the New Testament, he had a thorn in his side. And if you read through different people throughout history, religious or not, men of power, great men, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, kings of Europe, the Roman Empire, whatever you want to read about, there's great men that did great things in the world, but they all had a thorn in their side, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have that thorn in your side till the day you die. But it does get easier. I still struggle with the thoughts. Sometimes, we still have stresses. We still fight. We're not this perfect couple by any means. Sometimes I just want to leave and never turn back. But that's not the way it is. And you have that choice to choose not to go down that path again. Mm-hmm. And it's possible. It is possible. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's just going to go away forever. It's a daily battle. But you can do it.
Well said.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks you guys. All right, that's it. We're signing off.